Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. My name is TJ Jones. Thanks for checking out the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Well, Who Dat Nation, I have some rather shocking news for you. According to NFL.com and NFL Insider, Ian Rappaport, the New Orleans Saints Pro Bowl center, Max Unger, has retired from the National Football League. Now, Max Unger spent 10 years with the NFL. He spent 6 years with the Seattle Seahawks and 4 years with the New Orleans Saints. Now, we all know about Max Unger being a part of that Jimmy Graham trade back in the day, and a lot of people in the Who Dat Nation were really upset that Jimmy Graham was sent to the Seattle Seahawks in replace of Max Unger. But I think if we look at that trade in hindsight, I think the Saints end up getting the best of that trade. I mean, you look at Jimmy Graham going up to Seattle, he was not, I repeat, was not the Jimmy Graham he was in the New Orleans Saints uniform, and all Max Unger has done is be consistent. Now, in 68 games that he's been a part of the New Orleans Saints, he played in 67 of them. He also had a 40 consecutive game streak without having a flag thrown on him. At the offensive line position, that is huge. This man went 40 games without one flag being thrown on him. And I watched the game in the divisional round of the playoffs when the Saints played the Philadelphia Eagles this season. And I can tell you, man, the flag that was thrown on Max Unger looked kind of suspect if you ask me. But without a doubt, Max Unger will be missed as a New Orleans Saint. I mean, you can't get more consistent as this guy. This guy was a class act. He was a captain of the offense alongside Drew Brees, and you can tell the guys that are a part of the Saints organization, they really have a lot of respect for Max. You can look at some of the comments on Twitter. I think Michael Thomas actually commented about it. He actually had a broken heart emoji and a couple tears, man. The New Orleans Saints locker room, you have to say, it's probably one of the best locker rooms in the National Football League. And I think that we all can agree with that. Guys getting traded and leaving, getting contracts. You can tell guys on the New Orleans Saints team, they're really devastated by this because the camaraderie that we saw on Instagram and on those Twitter posts of these guys just celebrating after winning the locker room, you're not going to see that on everybody's team. So it was very special what the New Orleans Saints had last season. It's unfortunate, NFL, that the New Orleans Saints didn't make it all the way to the Super Bowl and possibly won it. But let's go ahead and look at some of the possible replacements that can replace Max Unger. Now, this is going to be a huge void that is going to be on the offensive line. Once again, Max Unger is incredible, but some of the players that can replace him are players that's already on the Saints team. Of course, if you watched a couple Saints games where offensive linemen went down, you seen Cameron Tom. Now, Cameron Tom was a guy who was a substitute on the offensive line when players were injured. I mean, he was part of that rotation. He did a pretty good job. I never heard his name called for holding or anything like that. And you also have Will Clapp. If you're in the Louisiana area, you definitely know who Will Clapp is. He played for LSU. And a lot of people are looking at Will Clapp to possibly take over for Max Unger. Now, this is going to be a competition in training camp, I'm pretty sure, because I don't think the Saints want to lose any of these guys. But there are some players that are on other teams that the Saints are looking at. One player in particular, he comes in from the Minnesota Vikings, and the Saints have brought him in for an interview. And that player's name is Nick Easton. Now, Nick Easton has played for the Minnesota Vikings over the past couple years. He missed the entire season last year with a neck injury, but the Saints feel like this guy could replace Max Unger. The Saints have been talking with him, and according to sources, it's going to come down to the New Orleans Saints and him possibly going back to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, there is a second option. Now, this one right here, this one might be a tad bit tricky. Now, the player that I want to talk to you all about, his name is B.J. Finney. B.J. Finney plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If B.J. Finney was on any other team, he would be a starting center in the National Football League. But of course, if you follow the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a Pro Bowl center in Ramon Foster, and he already re-signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that leaves B.J. Finney in a little bit of limbo. The Pittsburgh Steelers are really high on this guy, and they do not want him to leave this organization because he's a guy that can not only play the center position, but he can also play the guard position as well. So that is a huge benefit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially for a team that has been battling with offensive line issues, guys getting hurt, and this guy would be great for their rotation. But the problem is, if the Saints want to sign this guy, it will require them to give up their second-round pick because the Pittsburgh Steelers have a restricted free agent second-round tender on B.J. Finney. Now, if the Saints were to get B.J. Finney, they will have to lose their second-round pick, and you have to ask yourself the question, is B.J. Finney worth it? I mean, the center position is really, really important. You got to make sure that Drew Brees is well protected. Also, in the run game, you know B.J. Finney is a good run blocker, especially playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know they are a run first type team. Well, they used to be. Now they want to throw it all over the place. But playing in that type of condition when it gets cold outside, you know you want to run the football. So you know this guy is going to be rough and tough when it comes to the running game. And according to sources, he has improved tremendously in the passing game. So I guess it comes down to if the Saints wanted to sacrifice their second-round pick for B.J. Finney, only time will tell. But I will say that the New Orleans Saints do need a tight end. Now, they talked to Jared Cook, but Jared Cook also has been talking with the New England Patriots, and the New England Patriots are really high on Jared Cook. And the way that the New England Patriots do things contractually, we all know that they got the money to get them. And not to mention that they are the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, so that might be a little bit attractive to Jared Cook. But I think that the Saints need to get a young tight end that can come into the league. They don't have to worry about paying him the big bucks. They can give him a rookie contract, and he can go out there and produce. This is a deep draft for the tight end position, so I don't know if they want to just squander their second-round pick on a B.J. Finney, especially since you have two guys that have been learning under Max Unger to play the center position. Max Unger missed the game this past season, and Cameron Tom stepped in. And I think he did a good job, man. I went back and I checked it out. I think that he did a pretty decent job in that game, man. And also Will Clapp. I think Will Clapp has a lot of potential. I mean, watching him at LSU and also watching him in the preseason, I think that the Saints already have what they're looking for in the locker room. I don't think there's no need to go out there and squander your second-round pick. But the New Orleans Saints coaching staff and their front office know these players much better than me. So if they feel like it needs to be done, let's go ahead and get it done. But once again, Max Unger has retired from the National Football League after 10 seasons. No word why he retired, but if that update comes around, then I'll make sure that I keep you informed on the status of Max Unger and what made him come to that conclusion. But this has been the State of the Saints podcast. Check out the State of the Saints podcast on Twitter at SOTS Podcast 8, SOTS Podcast 8. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com. Search The State of the Saints Podcast. Also, hit that bell for notifications. Previous episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio.com. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?